if you want to turn your camera sideways, then we can get a full panorama. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, that's a good call. So this is, I got a kick out of this. These are all the little lovers that come to Paris, and they write all their things on the bridge. So you guys can do that when you come to Paris. In any event, I was just talking quickly. We wanted to be at the Louvre today. I wanted to show you guys the Louvre. It's the quintessentially French museum, and it talks a lot about, it goes on a lot about the history of France, the history of Paris, and it's got a lot of beautiful things to see. But this morning a guy attacked some soldiers, and then it was considered a terrorist attack, and so they closed the museum and they're investigating the whole thing, and so unfortunately we weren't able to do it today. But since it's such an important theme in the world today, I didn't know if you guys were interested at all before we walk over the museum to know what life is like today since the attack in 2015. If that's something you guys ever think about, or if you guys have questions.
Do you even know about the attacks in 2015?
Yeah.
And is there like could you walk over to the Eiffel Tower a little closer? Can we walk and talk?
Yeah, we certainly can. Now, do you? The museum's on one side of the river, and the Eiffel Tower's on another.
Well, we have an hour. I mean, I don't know.
You have an hour. Okay. Well, then let's go for a walk together. We're going to keep it this way.
So yeah, we'd love to hear. We'd love to hear about life in post-attack Paris.
You're breaking up a little bit. Well,
sorry. We would love to hear about life in post-attack Paris.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any specific questions?
So to go back to November 2015, on the same night, the big stadium in France, a couple coffee shops, and then a big music venue were attacked. It was a coordinated thing, and altogether it took about 130 lives. And since then, France has been at war basically against the Islamic State. We've all heard of them, and we all know what they're looking to do. Now, since then, there's a big Muslim population in France, so it's a very delicate subject. 15% of the population is of the Muslim faith, and so how we handle this is a very sensitive subject because we don't want to alienate such a big part of the community. These are people who came over 30, 40 years ago, even more than that, 50 years ago after the war in Algeria. They're considered French, but then for whatever reason, they got put in, in basically state housing, in the outskirts of the city, and the communities weren't, they were poor, and over time, there's one generation after another, they're not prospering, you run into problems. And so today, November has not been forgotten. Life is very much back to normal. You will always have in the back of your head what happened. People are a little more vigilant. Museums, my business is all around museums. Museums took a huge hit since 2015. Down, the Louvre was almost 10 million. Now they're at, I think it's 7 or 8. I mean, huge hit, and they haven't quite recovered. Hold on 1 second.
Hey,
now we're getting a little
Timmy,
close. Yeah.
If you want to unzip your jacket a little bit, because we hear the crackling of your zipper, like your microphone hitting the zipper.
Okay, I'm going to hold the
I don't
microphone.
want you to get pneumonia. I don't want you to get pneumonia.
So life here has gotten more or less back to normal. There's a state of emergency that's been in effect since then, and you wonder if you came to Paris today. Okay, this morning's a little different. but you wouldn't necessarily, you wouldn't be scared. You wouldn't, there wouldn't be military police everywhere. It's not that kind of a environment, but it's something that's frightening, and it's something that we live with. But it's little by little, we, life gets back to normal. So this morning was it's too bad, but honestly, it did nothing here. Life is. I don't want to say people got used to it, or that those sort of incidents, they didn't stop. People still went to work this morning, and the roads are full of people in museums, and so that's kind of a. I don't know if there's any questions, or if you guys have specific things that you guys think about when you think Paris, or when you think of terrorism and that, the environment that it's kind of imposed on us. No?
I mean, it's a downer topic to begin.
It is, but it's kind of important,
to
especially given the context of today. The Louvre is a beautiful place. Maybe one day we'll have another call and do it. And it's too bad that we couldn't do it there. But I figured, why not touch on it? You guys, life is a little different up on MDI than it is here. And so maybe you guys think about this every once in a while. Think about Europe and.
Well, Tim, can you? So what the police here are generally decked out with and wearing. How does that compare to the average policeman in France?
Well, France is actually not too dissimilar from. It's more how they behave. They walk around. They have handguns and they carry around long guns too. But they're and it's actually caused a bit of a stir here. But they're held to some pretty strict standards. They can't take their guns out unless they really have unless it's life threatening, and they can get in a lot of trouble. And the police here have they've protested on a few occasions because they're a little frightened. They're targets, and if they're held, when you're trying to fight crime or terrorism, but your hand, you feel like you have one hand tied behind your back. You don't. It doesn't make it's not. You don't have a lot of confidence in your ability to do your job. So I think that how your interaction with the cops on the streets day to day. This is, after all, this is a city that runs on tourism. So they have to be helpful, they have to be nice, and they are. And they're just less. You'll find less instances of them being overly aggressive or shooting people. You don't ever get that. Never in the news do you hear about cops shooting anybody. So.
Although they look way more intimidating because they all have.
They what?
I said they all look way more intimidating though than. At the train stations, they look a lot scarier.
Yeah, I mean but given the environment, they're pretty serious about what's going on now. They can't. It's like anywhere. They can't fail once. They have to be spot on all the time. So these are pretty serious people, and we're in a state of emergency now, but that's been going on for a while. It's more of a legal designation than anything else. So that gives you a little idea of life here at the moment and why we're not at the Louvre. I hope that I don't want to start this as a downer to a conversation that is. This is a beautiful city, folks, and I want hopefully you'll all come here and on this sunnier day because it really is pretty. This is a huge during the summertime. This would be packed with little pop-up shops and people. The river would have all the touristy boats out. These are during the winter. There's lots of store things and a lot of deliveries happen here. Boats come deliver food and all that sort of stuff. Just stock supermarkets, and then that's just jam packed with people doing this. So it's beautiful and it's great. And the Louvre is in that direction. So the Louvre is about there. It's right there. Behind the trees. and then we have the tower over there, and right here, right now, we're not. Let's see.
Lights are on.
Let's see the flag. Can you guys see that flag right there? Can you see that? That's the Grand Palais. A lot of stuff has been built around art exhibitions, and this, where we're going today, is one of them. As is the Grand Palais. That is 1900, and this is 1937 here. So it's taken culture as something that's really important to the French, art and culture, and not just it's not that the idea is not know every painter and appreciate art. It's more we have a history, we're proud of it, we don't want to forget it, and we need to practice that. We need to nurture that.
So we're going to start with my French class asking a couple questions. Also, I don't know if you guys know, there's a huge time difference here. That's part of why it's a little bit darker there, because it's 5:45. So, in the evening, which is why the light is hitting. So we're going to start with Delaney. They're going to introduce themselves.
Hello.
Hi.
What's up? Bonjour. Comment ça va? Ça va. Et toi?
Ça va bien. Can I ask my question?
Wait.
Okay. Normalement, qu'est-ce que tu manges pour repas?
Ça c'est une très bonne question. What do I eat? I eat in the morning, honestly, as cliche as it is, here look, the light went on. The lights are on. 5:45. I do start my day with a pain au chocolat, with in the U.S. what we call the chocolate croissant, and that's pretty much every single morning. So it's a cliche, but that's what I do because I think that bread and chocolate belong together. Otherwise, the bread here is really good. I don't know what's different with the bread here than it is in the U.S. Maybe it's the flour or something. I have no idea, but it's delicious. And a good, I don't know. A good sandwich is a frequent, meal. Food's heavy here. That's the big difference. Is everything that they do is really good. It's really tasty. And it's really heavy. I don't have a typical meal, but it's a very French meal, whatever that counts for. It's one second. I'm just crossing the street here. Shit. Oh, sorry. So I got stuck in the middle of the road. That's okay. Hold on one second. Here we go. There's one direction.
Oh my God.
A lot of scooters, I can't hear anything. Hold on one second, I'm going to run across here.
We do not promote this type of jaywalking.
The cars are a lot smaller here than they are in the U.S. Okay, hello, Minnie. Hello, Minnie.
So that's another thing. Tim, what is the average price for a gallon of gas or a liter?
It's pretty expensive here. That's why all the cars are smaller. These are, by the way, these are rental cars. You buy the hour. It's like a bike. Whoop, no, not gonna go. Okay, we're good. Hold on one second. Fill up your gas tank, even if you have a little car, like that Mini we saw going by. That's like $60.
Oh my God.
60 to 65 bucks. It's about what is it? It's about $4.5-5 a gallon. And that's I think that's probably the main reason why cars are just generally smaller here. It would be the streets are also pretty narrow. Paris is a really old city, and there are neighborhoods where if you drive around with a Hummer, you're not going in some streets. You can't do it. And so people have that habit of it's just part of the. People, I guess, don't need big cars. There's no snow here. I mean, once in a blue moon, there's snow, but it's nothing that you're not going to buy a car. You're not going to pace a decision around that. This, by the way, is the Petit Palais. So that's, yeah, it's expensive here.
What is the Petit Palais?
Remember that next time you go fill up your cars. In the U.S., while the prices do go up and down, you're paying a lot less than we are here. Well, you know, I kind of got a kick out of that when I come back to the U.S. You know, when I'm at the gas station here, filling up the car, I'm like, oof, this hurts a lot. And then you go back to the U.S. and you're like, oh, kind of want to, you know, fill up someone else's car because it feels really cheap. So that's that. That's the answer to your question. Sorry about the food question. I'll say I just thought of one thing that I absolutely love and that I get really, really often. It's called, in French, it's called a steak frites, which is a steak with French fries, and it's absolutely delicious with a big, thick sauce. So between my pain au chocolat, my chocolate croissant, and my steak and fries, I better keep exercising because otherwise I'm gonna get fat. Anyway.
Okay, so we have another question.
Bonjour. How are you? Très bien. Sorry, yes, my fault. Comment vas-tu?
Je m'appelle Claire.
Bonjour, Claire.
Okay. Qu'est-ce que tu penses est la nourriture populaire pour France?
La nourriture populaire? Cheese. Fromage. It's somewhere between cheese and pastries. That's what everybody here. You go to a dinner party, or you have a lazy evening at home. You're gonna end up it's cheese and bread and maybe a soup. Everybody eats it. Everybody loves it, and I think that's. But even though it's actually starting to pop up in Paris a little everywhere, burger joints everywhere.
So I'm going to pass you on to the next question.
Hi, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Comment ça va?
Oh, I guess we don't need to ask that.
Yeah,
But you can
I'm
introduce
assuming
yourself.
you're doing good. Okay.
What's your name?
Je m'appelle Emily.
Bonjour, Emily.
So, où est-ce que vous allez se détendre? Allez se détendre. Yeah.
Where do you go to relax?
Où est-ce que je vais me détendre?
Right.
Where do I go to chill out? If I said on my couch in front of my television, would that count? Is that a good answer?
Yeah, sure.
Nah, I'm just kidding. Where do I go when I want to go chill out? I have this. There are some. It's a really good question. Where do I go to relax? I mean, when I want, let's put it this way: when I want to disconnect, because I work from home, so I get to kind of pick my hours. And when I want to chill out, I will go walk around in the middle of the day at a museum, because there's no one there during the day, especially during the week. And it kind of just has. It's not any museum. I'm not going to go to some uptight sort of old, something that has a nice feel, like the one we're going to go into today. You'll see. But I just to go walk around a little bit and keep my phone in my pocket and just look at stuff and think a little. I don't know, just sort of. So that's what I generally do. But I also love museums, and so for people who maybe don't love museums or don't like art or anything like that, it might not be the same thing. But now that they all have restaurants and coffee shops and everything, you get to spend a little time and chill out a little bit. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I can't do some of this. Okay, hold on. Here's Will back.
Okay.
Hello, Will. Will back.
Sad to miss you. Molly, do you want to go? I think you got it.
I really don't want to go. Right there.
You got it. So this is my good friend Molly.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Molly.
Does that, wait.
You have a question right here.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Do I have to ask anything else?
No, just.
Okay. Quel est le mode de transport le plus courant à Paris?
Les transports les plus communs à Paris. So the transport system here is actually really good. It's clean and it works pretty much. I mean, you can't go. You don't have to go very far to have it. A lot of people take the bus here. I prefer. I came to this museum today I took the bus instead of the subway, just because I think it's just such a nice city to look at that, you know, if you don't have to go down in the subway, why bother? And the streets and one thing that Paris is pushing a lot is they're trying to cut down on pollution and cars. And well, in my opinion, they're going a little too far, and the mayor's a bit of a pain in the
Took us.
bottom. There's traffic. There's a little too much traffic. So buses they have priority lanes. So you kind of zip right by traffic, and so I would say that while generally the transport system people don't naturally. It's not like New York where people take cabs all the time. Between buses and subways, I think that's the. And then there's obviously the bikes. You know, in New York they have city bikes. Well, they have those same kind of things here, and those are pretty popular year-round because there's no snow, which you can't really, you know, New York, Boston, PA, and all those places. There's snow during the winter, so a bike is not always a good idea. So yeah, the transport system's pretty good.
Awesome.
You'll check it out for yourself when you come to Paris.
Now, should we go inside and continue questions, or so?
I would like to. Yes,
Because it's probably pretty cold.
It's cold. Let me call you back when I'm inside.
Okay, cool.
Am I calling your phone back? Is that what I'm doing?
Yeah, just call my phone and then I'll call you from this computer. Like, I'll
Okay,
just.
cool. Bye. Okay, bye.
Okay, so while we're waiting, what do you guys think? Do you have any questions for those of you who aren't in French? I heard someone say, I don't understand.
Of course.
Yeah.
So when he was talking about the gasoline, and he said it's like $4 for a gallon of gasoline, was he talking in euros or American currency?
No, he was talking in American currency.
Okay,
He was converting it into
Okay. I mean, it would be in kilos and euros, but like, he's familiar with
kilos.
Yeah, cal. Oh, liters, sorry. I'm not good with measuring. Did you have any questions? No. Are you okay that you didn't understand everything? Yeah. If you guys who are in other classes don't have any questions, and maybe professors too, if you guys have any questions or,
Hey, Will, I saw a hand over
oh, I'm sorry.
on the
Sure.
other side. I think it was Raven.
Raven?
Did you have a question, Raven?
Yeah, I saw that there was like this art at the Huntington, which is some sort of statues.
Right, I think it's on it.
And there also
Wait.
seemed to be like some sort of weird rock.
So we should, I saw that too, we should totally ask about that.
It's like a buffer DX.
Yeah, we should ask him about that. It's the sculpture probably by someone else.
So no, that weird little
You know, it looks almost like a Don Quixote or something. Sure. He did. I showed you. It's okay. You don't. And what would make this more interesting for you? Hey guys, hello, ladies and gents. What would make this more interesting for you guys who aren't in the French class? And like, I want to keep everybody engaged. So, who here has any interest in art, period, or travel? Art or travel? Are you interested in art or travel? It would work. Is there anything, who has wanted to go to Paris? And for those of you who haven't, why don't you?
I don't know. I don't have an interest in traveling outside of the United States.
At all?
No, I'm comfortable.
So there were quite a few people in Spanish class that were asking me questions about where I've been in Spain, and I thought maybe
So Tim has been recently to Spain. He was in Germany. He's going to the south of France tonight, I think, to go skiing. He's been in Canada, the U.S., LA, all within the past 3 months. Asia, yeah.
Well, I would kind of like to know where he's living right now, and if it's like a really small apartment, or like what kind of like real
His
estate.
apartment is awesome, but it's in France they have different arrondissements, which is like their formalized neighborhoods. I don't remember the name of like which actual number his arrondissement is, but he's on one of the top floors and he has his own terrace, 3 bedrooms. It looks out over all of Paris.
Do you think that's something you could ask him?
You can ask him.
Does he have a shared bathroom?
Yes, with his partner, girlfriend.
Oh, so it's not like, because I have a friend who lives in Paris, and, you know, it's very old, as he was saying, and so the bathrooms were sort of added after the bathroom,
This
so
is
it's
all
on
more
the floor.
modernized. So in
So all
France,
the apartments
a ton
share
of,
a bathroom.
right. So in France, hey guys, can I get your focus? Hey. We in France, because some of the architecture is so old, you're not allowed to do anything with the exterior of a lot of it, so it's very, very expensive to rehabilitize, but they have to do it from the inside out, leaving the okay. Hey buddy, wait, hold on, I'm gonna call you.
Hey. Whoa.
You guys know where I am? You guys know where I am? You recognize this? I'm in one of those little photo booth things. I'm in the museum. This is a cool museum. And now this is one of Paris's hipper museum, and it's super young, and people literally, it's open until midnight every day, and people literally come here just to hang out, and I love it. A little cafe over there, and then people drinking beer. Great, look at that. And then we go into the exhibit, and it changes all the time. With each new exhibit, there's a new format. You put up walls, take down walls, and hold on, I'm gonna go in. Control. Merci. All right. I'm going to take you guys downstairs, but if there are any next questions, I will be happy to. This is one of the rooms that's not being used at the moment. It kind of gives you an idea as to the size and scale of this place. It's huge. So anyway, hello, how are you? Bonjour. Bonjour.
Est-ce que tu penses que France doit pour les gens avec des handicapés?
Très bonne question. The government it plays a big role. That's one thing with France is a quote-unquote sort of socialist-leaning country. And so the government plays a big role in people's lives, including handicapped people, whether it's mental disabilities or physical disabilities. And so there are tons of programs and support structures for people, for parents of people with handicap, learning disabilities, and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very, very supportive environment. It is a little different though. The U.S. has a lot of sort of independent foundations and associations that help people with disabilities. Here it's more centralized. It's more the government. It's not so much, individuals with their own initiatives that come up with their own form of support. It's really all centered around the government. And so that's a good and bad thing, but it's, because it can be a little slower, it can take more time, but at least people, they know that they're taken care of. And so it's a great, for that, it's a great system. But I'll say this, I do speak as someone who doesn't need that sort of support. I haven't seen it firsthand. It's more, you hear it's debated often, on the political front. what the government's role should be and all that sort of stuff. So, but as from what I gather, it's a very supportive system. Yeah, you can have it.
And then after that.
So this is a guy who wasn't allowed in.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding. I don't know what he's. Yeah. Hello. How are you?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Je m'appelle Iris. So,
Bonjour, Iris.
à votre avis, quel est votre pays préféré en France?
Quel est quoi?
What's your what?
Like, in your opinion, what's your favorite thing in France?
Oh, okay, what?
Quelle est votre chose favorite?
Ouais,
C'est ça?
exactement.
Sorry.
Non, c'est pas.
No, it's okay. It's not you. It's cutting in and out. That's all.
Oh,
It's just that's it. So,
Okay.
well, like, can you ask again?
Yeah, sorry. À votre avis, quel est votre pays préféré?
Like, quelle est votre chose préférée de réponse? Right.
What do I love about France? What's my favorite thing about France? Is that it?
Oui.
That's a really good question. It's when I came to France, I moved back here. I moved here 2.5 years ago, and I had spent the better part of my life in the U.S. up until that point. There are some cultural differences. It's a beautiful place. Let's start there. Paris is a really spectacular city. France is a beautiful country. It's easy to travel around here, and I like that. I like moving around a little bit. I like seeing new things. Culturally, I like their way of there's an identity and a support and a sort of I like the way the French take care of each other. I like the system here. I like the work-life balance that people have. I like the fact. I kind of dig the fact that they love food and they make that an important. They appreciate it. They make that an important part of their daily lives. They make the work-life thing. It's a real thing. People work really hard, but they know when to stop and they know when to go home and they know when to see their family and see their friends lunch. And you can just feel it. You kind of just it's part of the culture. It's part of how people live their lives. And I think it's more that I love than something, than one particular tangible thing. It's more cultural than it is anything else. Another thing for me personally, another thing that's important is back to that moving around thing. It's super easy from Paris to be able to move around Europe. Flights are absurdly inexpensive, and you can go while the time it would take you to fly from Portland to New York, I can fly from Paris I could be in Berlin or Amsterdam or London or Madrid or these are new cultures, new languages, different people, and you kind of feel while Portland to New York is not it's really different, but it's you're in the same country, same language, same people generally. So that's why I like being here. That said, I do love the fact that I get to come back to the U.S. fairly regularly, because that's for me. That's it's home, and my folks are there, and my friends are there, and so I get the best of both worlds. But I hope that was a really long-winded way of telling a long-winded answer. But I hope it was helpful.
Yes.
So also I had a question, because is there like a specific artist there that we can see or anything? Because I was wondering, like, is there a cafe nearby or
There is
authentic French
there
cafe?
is a wait, say that again.
Like an authentic French
Oh,
cafe or not?
this is we're in the 16th. Well, it says.
Cool.
This is kind of cool. This is I don't know if everybody can see this, but this is a bear, as you can see, and the artist. So
awkward.
Oh.
can you
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you
Yeah,
hear?
tell 'em to stop swearing.
So this is, so just as a little tidbit on art, there's two things. There's modern art and contemporary art. Modern art is, Picasso and that sort of art. Contemporary art, sometimes you'll think that they're making fun of you. They're going to put something in front of you and they're going to say, this is art. And you're going to be like, what the, what is this? So this would be contemporary art. And this is a piece that an artist built. It's a bear with a thing inside. And you're supposed to be able to lie inside of it. And it's got a little kettle and everything like that. And what he did is this is a screen of this is the artist that puts himself in the bear, that lives in the bear. and these are people who are in like a super traditional setting. You can see with the paintings and everything. These are people who are walking around the bear. And he's the whole time, they're not realizing that in the bear is a dude who is listening to everything they're saying. There he is, just sort of hanging out. So it's kind of a strange sort of, but anyway, that's contemporary art for you. And so a lot of these artists are not really well known these days, or not as well as the Picassos of the world, because they're contemporary artists. They've got a long way to go for their careers. They've developed their careers, and their names are come out. This is an installation that, for me, and this is just an opinion here, obviously, it does nothing for me. You look at it, you're just not quite sure what you're looking at, why you're looking at it. But this is the kind of museum that it is, and it's supposed to be the kind of setting where you're supposed to question things, and you're supposed to wonder why are you looking at it. And this is something I think is kind of cool. This is a big rock that the artist, he separated the rock, and then he had this cut out to fit the artist's silhouette. So it's just as if it were the artist who's in the rock, which I think is kind of fun. It's these sort of art. This is not your traditional museum. If we do this again one day, we go to the Louvre, it's going to be a whole different experience. But what's the idea? The idea is, think about it. Think it through. See something, react to it, and either you like it or you hate it, or it makes you sad or happy, and then you can walk out and you'll have, experienced art, basically. It's partly provocation and partly just aesthetics.
That's a pretty good definition of contemporary art.
Yeah.
I have a question from someone about
yes.
your living. She's not French. She's not in French, but she's
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
awesome.
I'm good. My name's Catherine.
Hello, Catherine.
And I was just wondering, what are your living quarters like, and where's your house at in regards to downtown of the city, and
Yeah.
where are you staying now?
So, you guys, have you seen a map of Paris?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the map, I'm on the left side, so on the west side of Paris, in what's called the 16th arrondissement. It's the city is divided up by what's called arrondissement, which are just like neighborhoods or whatever you want to call it. And the 16th is, to be perfectly honest, the 16th is like the old person's neighborhood. I chose it because my brother lives there and he's got kids and family, and I wanted to live near them. But it's really the boring neighborhood at night. It's all families and old people with their little white dogs that are pooping everywhere. And if you want to go out, you have to go on the east end of Paris, so the right side of Paris, where it's super young, it's super energetic. There's lots of good bars and restaurants and clubs and all that sort of stuff. And it's a bit of a trek, but anyway, that's sort of that. But on the flip side, I have a sweet apartment that overlooks the rooftops of Paris, and that's kind of a nice little thing to have. So I'm afraid, sadly, I can't show you tonight. See that little thing that didn't speak to me at all, by the way? That seems to be doing wonders for a lot of other people. Yeah, so that's where we're at. And apartments in France are, the rent in Paris is not cheap, but it's
pretty regulated, so it's a lot less expensive than in the States. By city standards, I think it's pretty affordable for people. They do a big deal. They make a big deal about keeping things affordable for regular, teachers and cops and and all that sort of stuff, so, which is a great thing. But then everybody benefits from it, so even better. Those sort of, I mean, that's my living situation, and I like it, except for I could use a little more energy around me. When I go home tonight, for example, it'll probably be just after people get home from the office, so it'll be totally dead. But that's it.
All right, thank you for sharing.
Is that a good answer? Is that what you were generally looking for?
So you wish you were in the village? You wish you were back in the village?
Yeah, I wish I were a
From
little
New
bit
York.
back. I wish I were in the village equivalent here in Paris.
Well, could you also
Will can tell you all about the village folks.
Wait.
He can tell you. He can tell you all about the village people too.
Is he a French citizen or
He's
doing
doing-
No, nobody got the
Can we
joke.
talk to engage some Spanish students about like your time in Spain a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I've driven through the northern part of Spain, and I've spent some time in Barcelona, and it was a little while ago. So I loved it, by the way, but it won't be, I can't. Let's say I know Paris and France better than I know Spain and Barcelona. Barcelona.
Could you say a little bit about Barcelona, maybe how it compares to Paris architecture?
Well, what really struck me about Barcelona, and it must have been just the time of year I went there, but the weather was just so awesome. And on the water, on the Mediterranean, anything that's on the water like that, and on the Mediterranean with the beaches, and one thing that I really realized is that it's part of the culture there. People. I remember flying in. It was super early in the morning, and I dropped off my bags at the hotel, and I walked right down to the beach, and already you had people. All the retired people were already setting up for a full day on the beach, and that's just what they do. And I went back to that beach, a few hours later. Almost at the end of the day, still there. They just, they were playing cards and drinking and eating, and that's just what they do. And I never really realized how much it's part of their deal, their daily routine. And I loved it. And the ambiance, that everybody's attitude was just sort of, it's cool. It's everybody's chill, everybody's nice. The Spaniards are generally, it's nice weather down there, and I think you'll find that's why, if you go to Norway, the people are one way. If you go to Spain, they're a whole other way. And I think that it's, one is cold and dark half the year, and the other one is always reasonably warm and sunny, and it's just an outdoor kind of lifestyle in another. And so I really did like Barcelona a lot. And it's, you jump in the car and you go, you don't have to go very far to find countrysides and landscapes. Landscapes. They're just beautiful. They're really, really beautiful. And that's typical of the region. Southern France is similar, and a lot of those people go spend time in southern France and Spain. They'll cross the border and by boat, even by car or whatever it is. So.
I have a question for someone who's actually moving to Germany before the end of the school year.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ich bin Deutsch.
Yeah. No, not at all. And he's in French class, so he's not learning Deutsch.
Yeah.
Why are you heading to Germany?
It's a small town called Montreal.
Yeah, and for a program, or are you moving there, or?
My dad's in the military.
Oh, okay, cool. You excited, or
I think so.
a little hesitant?
Yeah. It's different.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
It's normal. It's definitely different, but but you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it.
All right. Well, quel est ton restaurant préféré dans Paris?
That's a good one.
We're clearly really hungry here. We need to be really focused on food.
me ask you guys, are there great restaurants in MDI? The Paris is so full of restaurants. This is the funny thing about Paris. You get the restaurants that are, you're going to spend 200 euros on your dinner. And then you got the little restaurants that are on the corner that are, basically a mom and pop shop and that are absolutely delicious. And it's simple, but the food, that's one of the things here that you have to, that's important to note is that the food here, the quality of the food is super, super regulated. So you're going to get things that, okay, they didn't just get plucked out of the ground or something like that, but there's all kinds of rules that people have to abide by in terms of growing food and serving food. So it's really good quality food. So you're going to be able to find some really incredible dinners in a place that's not very expensive. My favorite restaurant is in the Marais, which is on the east side, so on the right side of the city, and it's called the Guys in the Kitchen is how it translates, and it's the most laid-back, delicious restaurant with a good ambiance. That's really what it is. It's got a you just kind of feel like you want to, you just want to spend your time there, and they got a little music that they put on. And it just, you end up, you're there with friends, and you'll end up spending 4 or 5 hours without even realizing it. And that's why I like it. It's just on the other side of town, so it's a bit of a pain. But yeah, it's...
I was telling them, I was telling them about skiing, and I thought, are you going tonight to Maribel?
No, Monday morning.
This question is not on skiing nor on food, but I was telling them that one of my favorite meals was one of the ones we had, with chess and everything on the top of the mountain. And all those
Yes, and then I will go and have a beer for you at the same place next week. Well,
oh, thanks, man. Okay, so here's
Eric, before you ask, let me ask. Would you guys like me to go back outside and walk up to? There's some little cafes and stuff, and sort of walk around the neighborhood.
Would you guys like to see more Paris? Circle of Truth, the boring building is a little boring. Okay?
Well, that's no, but this is a very
beautiful building,
particular kind of place. So let's do that.
The bear was super cool.
So,
yeah, why didn't you sit in the bear?
because I wanted to leave voluntarily.
Oh, are you not allowed to sit in there? Whoa.
This is a quote unquote work of art. So somebody took a big bottle or made a big bottle, and then they put a bunch of things in it. And you guys have to tell me, does that talk to you? Does that make you feel something? Anyway, that's what I was talking about, art, and sometimes it feels like they're making fun of you.
I feel like he's
Anyway, okay, I'm going back up there.
Okay, so Jordan. So while you can, okay. Oh, you want full time?
Across the street, by the way, is the Palais Galliera, which is the fashion museum. This is a really crappy night here. I'm sorry that it's not nicer for you. But yeah, that's across the street. You can't really see it because the lights are off. Anyway, hello, how are you?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Je m'appelle Jordan.
Bonjour, Jordan.
Okay, so my question, quelles sont les différences entre le système éducatif, français et les États-Unis?
Very good question, bonne question. I think there's two things that are really different. The first is that there's a big exam when you get out of high school. There's one huge exam. It's called la fac, F-A-C, just to be clear here. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. Wow. By the way, is that not beautiful? A little,
And it's an all-encompassing exam of your entire high school career. So you have to spend weeks memorizing. I'm not kidding. Memorizing everything you've learned through high school, and then sit through an exam that lasts a couple days, and have the answers for everything. It's a brutal test, but that's, if you fail it, you got to do it again, and that's a big difference. The SATs are not like that, and then the other thing that's very different is everything's free here. Education is considered, it's not something you pay for. Even private schools here are, Paris, a private school here is a couple grand a year. In the U.S., you could spend 30 or 40 grand a year to go to a private boarding school or a private any kind of school. And education here is really something that, like the health system, it's a right. Everybody, regardless of socioeconomic background, gets to go and get a good education. And so I think that those are important differences between the system here in France and back in the U.S. So unless you guys are all taking a test at the end of your MDI high school career where you have to memorize the last 4 years, then I think that it's a big difference.
Yeah, I think I'd fail that test.
I'm glad I didn't live here when I was 18 because I would have definitely failed that test.
Yeah. I mean, I like pre-college, but not that. I mean, my SAT score didn't prove that. Oh.
You have a question? Someone has a fashion question too.
Oh, well, I love
fashion. No, that's not. Oh, wow, look at that. Qu'est-ce que c'est, monsieur?
That's good question. There are things like this everywhere in Paris. I'm not going to go run in traffic again to go read the inscription on that thing. But Paris is just chock full. It goes back to their history. They're proud of it, and they have it shows everywhere. So that's just but it's beautiful to have. Anyway, hello. How are you? Bonjour. Bonjour, Irene.
I apologize for my French because I have to use an internet dictionary and I
Well, don't be sorry at all.
Qu'est-ce que pense l'autre Européen à le français?
Qu'est-ce que pensent les autres Européens des Français? That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think that they find, I think it probably is not too dissimilar to what the Americans think of the French. The French can be surprisingly annoying sometimes. Well, I mean, we all can be a little that way, but the French have a particular knack. They're very proud of their history, and they think that up to a certain point, they think there's a certain entitlement, whether it's intellectual entitlement or whatever else. And so they want to talk about everything and discuss and philosophize and all that stuff. And it can be very frustrating to other people. And so I think that frustration is probably something that's shared by not only Americans, but by other people too. And that's fine. I mean, they're good. There's the up and down, but they're generally liked. I mean, they're looked. French people are looked to for business and cultural reasons, and I'd say that they're looked on favorably. I mean, it's got, let's put it this way, soft power, which is basically cultural power. The French are really strong there. Everywhere you go throughout Europe, Africa, Asia, even in the U.S., in Latin America, in Canada, there's a whole French-speaking part of Canada. It's a powerful force. So I think they're favorably looked upon, by other Europeans, especially today. There's politically, there's a bunch of, it's a big mess. But so people are looking at France to keep things together.
We have a teacher question.
Oh, hello, teacher.
Hi, I'm Devon. I'm the librarian here at the high school.
Hello, Devon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So my question is sort of similar to the one that Irene just asked, but I was just wondering if you're hearing anything about how French people are reacting to things in the United States these days. Without getting
There's
like
something.
super.
Sorry, there's something in the microphone that I don't think it's on my end.
So I was wondering if you could tell us about what French people are thinking about what's going on in the United States right now, without getting terribly political.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's everybody's talking about it. Everybody is. There's a worry that's hold on. Sorry, there's something.
Could be the
There's,
heater.
we're over the fan. Wait, maybe, is that better?
yeah, that could be.
Is that better?
Yes.
Sorry, you were on a fan.
Oh. The political, there's the shift that's come so quickly from the U.S. In terms of the policy view towards Europe. It's so sudden and so kind of violent that people are really worried. People don't understand necessarily why. People think it's unwarranted. And so there's this sort of there is a little bit of the wait and see attitude. But, with elections that, the UK is no longer part of the Eurozone. France has got elections coming up. Germany does too. It's sort of, and then we don't have the support of the U.S. And then you think of the Russians and the Chinese and everything, and people they don't really know what to make of it. So there's a little bit of maybe a denial, a sort of a wait and see attitude. There's a whole bunch of different emotions that are piled into one, and everybody's kind of frozen. Everybody doesn't really know what to do yet. So, interestingly, today all the leaders in Europe are gathered in Malta to talk about this. So we'll see what they come out with. But it's for all of you guys back in the States. It's an interesting time. We don't. Sure, we're far away from each other, and there's a big ocean and all that stuff. But we all live in the same world. We're all generally the same. We all share a lot of the same things. And how this turns out will have one thing for sure. However this turns out, it will have an effect on all of us, one way or another. It could be economically. It's going to have some kind of impact on everybody. So it's an interesting time, and just to follow what's going on. And I hope you guys do that.
Before I go back to my classes questions, do any of you guys have? Yeah.
Hey Ben, how you doing?
I was just wondering, what's the culture like down in Barcelona when it comes to soccer?
Religion. It's no. It's people live by it. I mean, it's the same. That's across Europe. I'm not a huge, I'm more of a hockey fan or a rugby fan than I am a soccer fan. But people in Spain and France, they live by it. They wear their jerseys every day. The match days are the most important days of the week. I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing. I don't think I was in Barcelona during a match day, but you see it everywhere. People are walking around with their jerseys on the beaches. The kids running around in the jerseys. And it's just it's a profound, like a deep commitment to the sport. And it's awesome when you when you live it. When you see it from afar, it can be a little jarring. You're sort of like, whoa, everybody relax. I got a huge kick out. I see it more here than I would know more about it here than I would there. So I can tell you that it's an important. Culturally, it's a very important part of the sport. It's an important part of the European cultural fabric. Like that goes without saying, and it's the same down there in Barcelona.
But it's Europe-wide. Like I remember one of my trips to France. I landed in Paris when the World Cup was there, and it's like actually like tear. like I was younger, but it was like I was terrified for my life. There were like crazy Irish people who were just like breaking stuff. There were windows. I was like, are there riots? I don't understand what's going on. Like, what is happening? Okay. We have a question. We have a lovely young lady who's interested in the cordon bleu.
Yes. Wait, well, you can speak about that better than I could.
I know.
Your sister-in-law.
My sister-in-law is a celebrity chef. So. Graduate of course.
Hello. Hello. How are you? Comment là-dessus.
Like my friend, it's roughly translated. But des cordon bleu.
Yes.
M'intéresse pas dans la cuisine. Votre français?
Qu'est-ce que vous pensez? Qu'est-ce que tu penses de la cordon bleu et comme une école et la vie de Paris pour un vie de cuisine et pour we're back to food. We're really pretty hooked on food.
Yeah, but it's great to be hooked on food. Food is it's in everybody. It's so important here that you know, whether it's this cordon bleu school or just I think that if you're going to learn to cook, you have to go through Paris. I mean, that's or if you want to make a career out of it, because that's what everybody, you know, everybody is. It's a part of everybody's life. It's every dinner, you know, it's the right food, the right wine. It's really it's sure some people, you know. I'm not quite sure how. It's really important. It's people talk about it a lot. People appreciate it, and that's really the big difference. That's the big difference that I've seen. Between all the dinners that I went to or had in New York or in the States or in here, is the conversation here inevitably turns towards the food, and that's something that people stop and they think and they appreciate, and that just goes to show how important it is in the daily lives of people. It just goes to show what's important to them.
Class actually, so the bell just rang.
Before, hey, can we give him a, hey, yeah, can you show us?
Yeah, can we and then if anybody has more questions while he's on, you can ask. We have a
Yes.